Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
And if I may, we had very briefly, I chatted with Joe very briefly about maintenance of standards as I walked in. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. We have kind of competing drafts on this, and I am up to speed. I got filled in by Becky about the prior discussions. I've had a chance to talk to the team about it. Becky briefed me on her conversation with Matt Backup. What I told Joe when I came in is I really think that we're arguing about semantics and we're not arguing about something substantive. Brian, your team in preparation for this spent a number of months going through the existing relationships and the things that y'all enjoyed under city policy and under fire department policy and so forth. And I think you pretty much captured the elements of value and the things that were important and the things you wanted to lock in for your members. And most of our bargaining process has been taking those items and putting them in the contract, either putting them in as is, which you've done on a number of occasions. And we've expressed our appreciation for that approach instead of, trying to add something to everything that was already on the table. Y'all were very straightforward and reasonable about, asking for what was already there. And then when there was something that you wanted to change or enhance or add to, having reasons and so forth. So we've talked through all of those things. On the other side of that coin, which we don't have any problem with that, we were tickled to engage in that process. On the other side of the coin, we need to preserve the chief's prerogatives to run the department, to make operational changes and policy changes. And sometimes, the only reason for maintenance of standards is the incidental impact on employee benefits. So I think that we have locked in all of the things that we have agreed to. Instead of just arguing about what the words are, hypothetically, I'd like to know if there's any examples that you can give us where somebody would be subject to a loss of a benefit or a privilege or a reduction in something that they currently enjoy as a result of the chief making changes. Because I don't think, for instance, that you're bargaining for a scenario where your members would have a right to bring a grievance over being reassigned to another station because they didn't like it or because it was farther to drive or it cost them some more gas money or something like that. And we can't have the chief required to ask for union permission to run the department, and I know y'all are not bargaining for that, and I know, because throughout this process, repeatedly, y'all have recognized, the things that are up to the chief. So I really don't think we have a difference of opinion about that. That's why we like to talk about scenarios or examples and identify anything that's problematic, and then when we figure out what, if any, problem we're trying to solve, then we'll know what language it takes to try to solve it. All I'm asking for is leave the chief's operational prerogatives alone. Let's don't create grievances over things that everybody knows that's the way fire departments work. We are not trying to tilt the language one way or the other here. We're not seeking an advantage here to where the chief can do something or take away something that we actually expected to stay the way it is today, across this bargaining table. I think that anything that y'all brought to us that's an existing scenario that you want to preserve, almost every time that y'all brought those to the table here, we've said yes, and the primary thing that we've changed here is the productive time issue, which was merely to be able to afford the funding for the staffing commitment and make that into a contractual deal instead of a budget cycle, process. Anyway, that's our perspective on it. We're ready to listen to y'all and hear from you and maybe see if you have any scenarios about that. We have a counter proposal that we'll be sending to you shortly on hours of work. Janet's going to explain that real quick. And then I'll turn it over to you for what your priorities are today and how you think we can get this done, because we're hopeful that we can wrap everything up today and would like to do that if we possibly can.
Okay.
Build on the momentum, because we've had a lot of momentum. When I wasn't here, y'all got a lot done.
Yeah.
So,
we're assuming Becky was going to walk into
that may point at what the problem is,
I guess as far as the maintenance standards goes, kind of one example was, we actually talked about it like a meeting or two ago. Having guys that are normally working in the field, getting them basically reassigned to admin for a couple months at a time. I mean, we can call it whatever you want to call it, training opportunity, whatever it may be. The members don't feel like those are training opportunities. They feel like that's punitive for a guy that works normally a 24/48 to come in and now do 3 months in administration, working Monday through Friday. That's one example, I think, of where maintenance of standards, I think, would be beneficial to us. But like you said, I mean, we're not trying to inhibit his ability to operate the department as he sees fit, but I think it's important to have some sort of consistency with how we operate. And I think looking at, so I rewatched a video where you were kind of explaining the maintenance of standards with that. I think it was all on, basically there were like 6 words in ours. Let me try and find them here. That I think you said, would it, let me find it. I don't want to misspeak here.
So I have the draft in front of me. We took out the first sentence that y'all had proposed that said department management may change those benefits, privileges, and working conditions, which it determines to interfere with the operation of the department. That we struck. We did, and I think it's worth pointing out and noting, we did agree to keep in the language about any changes would have to be made in good faith, must be consistent with the spirit and intent of the relevant provision or practice, must be reasonable and not discriminatory, and must be reasonably related to the safe and orderly operations of the fire department and not conflict with the agreement or law. So that was, I think, the interfere language was the huge concern, and the burden shifting we feel like it puts on the fire chief or management to basically have to prove that something doesn't interfere with the operation of the department before making a change to a policy. And we didn't, obviously, we're trying to be consistent with the fact that we've already agreed on the management rights section. And so what does that mean in light of that language? So I think we felt like the middle ground would be to keep the reasonable language in there and the good faith language. And that kind of helps, I think, address some of the concerns.
Yeah, and I don't remember seeing that version of it. Like I saw it from Becky and Matt's discussion. I was able to see, like the last one I saw was like a 4 or 5 section, like full page thing. Like that's the last one I'm able to find on my end.
I'll send it
Let's send
back
that to you, because that may really just solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because the example that you gave, and I'll just put this on the record. If we have a grievance over somebody being assigned to staff and it's for punitive reasons, it violates the language that we have on the table.
Where?
That's the language that she just read.
Okay.
It has to be in good faith, consistent with the spirit and intent of the relevant provision or practice, reasonable and not discriminatory, and related to the safe and orderly operation of the fire department.
Okay.
The chief has disciplinary tools under the statute, and, the chief can't,
And like I said, I haven't seen that one yet.
Right,
So,
right. No, and I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just trying to solve the problem
Yeah.
together.
And that may help. That was ours. They have a different one. No, there's from what I've seen on the email from Becky, there's a little bit of different language on there, so I'm just waiting to get that. But I emailed
Which
you guys
section?
that version of it.
Because I think I've also moved some stuff around
Okay.
as well.
Yeah,
Just to make it read clearer, but
That-
we had kept some of y'all's language and just moved it in a different part.
And that may clear it up for us. I mean, I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think the way I interpreted ours was the chief doesn't have to justify everything unless we felt like it was something that had to be justified. And even then, if we end up going to grievance or arbitration or whatever, if we lose, we're on the hook for that money. I mean, how many times are we just going to try and appeal everything and blow through our coffers? Like, I think the idea behind it, it's reserved for what we feel like is a blatant violation of contract. But again, maybe seeing your guys, the updated language, that may
let's take a look and see
Yeah.
if that gets us there.
Yeah,
You know,
that-
and I think that's a really good scenario to talk about. I appreciate you bringing up that example. You know, there's a lot of reasons why an executive would put somebody in one of those staff positions, you know, and if it's disciplinary in nature, in my experience, most arbitrators would penetrate that and say, we're not going to let you do that. But at the same time, I've seen many times where a reassignment like that is based on somebody's in a place where it's not working. They got problems with their colleagues, either the people on their apparatus or, you know, whoever their station officer is or something else, and the chief puts them somewhere else because the problem gets fixed, you know, and then they get rehabilitated and they go somewhere else. Sometimes an assignment to staff is to put them in the same working environment with people that are going to help them be better in their job and their career. And it may be perceived as punitive, but it's actually not punitive. It's trying to address a personnel problem.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, is that gray area, like how do we interpret the gray area?
An arbitrator takes these words right here, and you're going to argue that it's not in good faith, you know, because here's the reason that the chief did it, and we heard, you know, you put your witness up there, you know, that heard somebody talking out of school about what happened, you know, because, I mean, that's, you can go find awards like that, you know, and you can find them in the airline business and in the firefighter business and, you know, wherever.
Yeah, I think maybe the updated language seeing that'll clear that up, so.
I just sent it to you, so hopefully it'll come
Okay.
through.
I'm sure it'll take a
Chief,
while.
any comments on that?
Maybe
Or
it's
did I
locked.
get what
but-
you need said?
No, I think y'all are, I mean, they're bringing their perspective to the table, and
Right.
I think you're explaining it very thoroughly. And there's always going to be times throughout a career that we disagree, and that's why there's arbitrators to take it to, or
Right.
grievances to go through. And I know the specific examples they're putting forward. I disagree with, you know, why they thought I did what I did. I
Right.
was doing it to expand our officer development program and our hazardous material team for writing grants and stuff that needed to improve our services. But I can respect their opinion.
Right,
in
and
this
if you had
case.
to go in front of an arbitrator and prove your side of that story, you're ready to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I think the language is balanced, and we appreciate y'all looking at it.
Okay, yeah, let me send it to these guys real quick so they can gloss over here a little
Are you
bit.
able to open it?
Yes.
Brian? Okay, good,
Yes,
thanks.
I was able to. Okay. So we'll look at this one, and if we have any questions, you know, clarification and stuff, we'll come back to it.
Right. And where are we on the hours of work? You got that? Right.
I need to save it and send it to you, so I'll get you the work hours. And then I think the last time before we left, we had sent you kind of revised overtime and sick counters, so I don't have anything to send you on those, whenever you want to go through those
So
particular.
I can,
And then just from inventory, I guess what I show to be the outstanding articles, our maintenance of standards we've already touched on. We're going to send you work hours. Overtime and sick, we had a lot of conversation about those at the last one and sent you some revised language. We could exchange some proposals on that. And then we still have the investigations and discipline article to go through. The appointed position article is still outstanding, and then the definitions. So that's all I show to be kind of hanging out there that we didn't wrap up at the last meeting.
yeah, do you want, I can send you the, I guess the overtime counter we have. It's basically, it's copy and pasted from city policy with the change of putting sick
Okay.
leave in, and then the special event premium pay that we discussed.
Yeah, and I'd sent you the premium pay one, so did
Yeah.
you change that again?
No,
Okay.
it was,
We
I only,
took out
I
the,
only, in section 1, the overtime description,
okay,
I copied and pasted that from city policy.
okay.
I can explain that if I need to, but I think when you guys read it,
Look at it,
it'll
okay.
make sense. I mean, it's just straight from
We'll take
city
a look at
policy. And then the only thing I put in there was, I mean, there's a definition, but I don't know if that needs to be in this or it'll just be in the definition section. So I highlighted it and just made a note, like, we can either put in here, we can put in the definition section,
Sounds good.
whatever you want to do. Let me get that to you real quick. Do you want me to just email all four of you or just you on the overtime
Send
one?
it to Janet.
Okay. And then, yeah, just kind of seeing what you guys have on the work hours one would help, but,
Yeah, and we're basically accepting all of your language. We just have one little tweak to the mutual agreement section
Oh,
where
okay.
we want the concurring agreement of the city manager. So
We
not
want
just the fire
running off
chief,
on a,
right? The fire chief has to get the agreement of the city manager to make these changes as well, particularly, to the extent it impacts budget or other things in terms of work hours.
oh, sure.
Yeah, that's all we
fine.
added.
Okay.
Everything else I think
Yeah,
is good.
I was just trying to avoid going back to a ratification vote if we're just going to change
No.
from 2448
we're on
to
the, we're on the same
49.6.
page.
Or,
Right.
okay.
We're on the same page. That's exactly what needs to be able to happen.
All right, let me know, I guess, when you get the overtime one, and then, I'll have a, counter on the assistant chief. I can send that to you guys, and then, I guess before we break, because we're probably gonna end up, you guys can discuss that, and we'll go review the maintenance of standards one.
Yeah, and I need to talk through with the team, investigations and discipline a little bit
Okay,
to be ready to do that. So,
Do you have language to send us on investigations and discipline to counter what we had sent you all?
I do.
Okay.
I think that one was gonna kind of tie into what happens with maintenance of standards and the appointed chief.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a, like I
cart
said,
before the horse.
Order.
yeah, just trying to figure out how we can be done today.
That's fine. That's the only reason I brought that up is that's the only one I didn't look at last night. I looked at all the rest of these. last
Okay.
night, so.
Okay. But other than that, I think everything else is squared away. So yeah, I'll get your work hours one, and then I'll send you guys the assistant chief. You guys can go talk about it. We'll
Okay.
talk about maintenance of standards, and then come back and hammer the rest out.
Okay.
Hopefully
Sounds
be
good.
done.
And then I think definition-wise, we had kind of had our own draft definitions initially. I don't know that we ever gave them to you because we received yours. So we've tried to go through and marry those up. So I'll make sure they're clean and good to go, but I'll try to
Okay.
get those to you maybe after our next break, just to make sure you all have a chance to look
Okay,
at them.
and
But
I just copied and pasted the definitions from Fort Worth's contract, so
Okay.
I wasn't going to reinvent the
Yeah.
wheel on any of that.
yeah, that's pretty basic stuff. So
Okay,
nothing huge there. Just wanted you to be aware that we have, I think, some additional definitions that was not in your original draft.
okay. So do you want me to, so I sent you the OT one. Do you want me to send you the AC, and then you send me the work hours, and then we'll go have some conversation?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let me get that real quick.
And I sent you maintenance of standards, so that's good. And I just got the OT.
Okay. Okay.
We'll let them look at it.
Okay, so you should have the assistant chief counter we have, and then the overtime counter. So I think we'd be good to break at this point. Like I said, I'll just wait on the work hours one from y'all, and we'll discuss work hours and maintenance of standards back there. You guys can look at the overtime and the assistant chief thing, and then hopefully it's a brief caucus. We can come back and try and wrap some of this stuff up.
We appreciate it.
Sending you work
Yeah.
hours right now.
Okay, cool. I think you can tell we're all 75 days in.
Of course, the problem we've had is we can't get any rain.
Oh, really?
You
San
know?
Antonio area?
Yeah. Yeah.
East Texas, you know.
I should have put up 60 bales of hay this year. I think we put up 23, you know, and because it was going great, and it came up, and it was growing fast and everything else. And then we got a good first cutting, and then it rained on it for 10 days.
Run the first cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it quit.
That's what happened over the road. Wow.
Bet. So I want to congratulate both sides on this next two TAs that we've just gotten accomplished. We appreciate y'all's work on those. The Kelly Day aspect of that agreement, I want to make sure that I highlight that because that's a concession that y'all had asked for and something that the city supports, and it's a cost on our side, and we want to make sure that y'all understand it the way we do. Of course, I wasn't here when y'all resolved the staffing article where, just again, and I'm not trying to harangue y'all about this, the city manager had to go find another $450,000 to move the first personnel complement up into year one with a budget that basically was already baked. And so I think it's important, not just for your team, but for your membership to understand the significant commitments that the city's putting forward on these things. I think your team understands that because you're here, you know, in the process. But, you know, just talking to your peers and your colleagues that are out there listening to this, watching it or whatever, those are major commitments. We'd like to visit about the sick leave article and get it out of the way because we need to know if we have a deal on that one, and we are ready to have a discussion with y'all about a way to take the edge off of some of the particular applications on the sick leave not as a productive time credit item. We've spent most of our break looking at crunching data, looking at historical leave utilization and required overtime backfill and so forth to try to come up with a way to ease some of the impact on particular members of the department in the context of having that adjustment that we've agreed to in terms of sick leave no longer being productive time. We understand that's been something that's been going on for a long time in this department, and people are used to it. So we've taken that request seriously. Chief Connolly was kind of the primary number cruncher on that stuff. He has a very good calculator, called a yellow pad, and got the data for several years in terms of actual utilization. Brian, of course, and you mentioned to us earlier that you felt like we were able to do something here that would not result in a significant amount of overtime just because of the frequency on callbacks, and so we went back and studied that. So we want to talk to you about that. We have the manager's authorization now to do so, but
Well-
let's get the sick leave article out of the way first.
Well, one question, I mean, I think we're fine on the sick leave one, I forgot to mention that.
That's okay.
On the maintenance standards, I just caught this, I don't think it's a big deal, but, I don't know if we have, like, IOCs and information bulletins, like, that's like Fort Worth language. I think it just needs to be changed to, like, department directives or something like that. Whether that matters or not for, like, definition purposes, but we don't have IOCs and information bulletins. That's from Fort Worth language.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would just be like,
We'll fix that.
department
Fix that
directive
to
and
department
whatnot.
directives. Okay, we'll get that change made, and then
Excellent.
and you're fine if we TA the sick leave article?
Yeah.
Based on
Yeah,
what we
yeah, I thought-
gave you at the last session? I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify, because we
Yeah.
never got a formal response.
I had that, I'm sorry.
That's
I had
okay.
that marked and ours is like,
No problem.
we're ready to TA,
Okay.
question mark, so.
All right, we'll get that
um,
printed and brought down, and then we'll change the maintenance and standards.
You want me to sign this, or you just want me to?
No,
wait
we'll go
till
ahead
the-
and fix it.
We'll get
We'll
you a
get
new
it done today.
Yeah, sorry I didn't catch it earlier.
That's fine.
I
We'll-
just like saw it, I was like, we don't have those.
Well,
So,
appreciate the catch on that.
Yeah, but other than that, everything else in the article's fine, just, so we're all, I guess, on the same lingo for the department and city and whatnot.
So let's see now. We have investigations and discipline. Do y'all have a response on that? What you want to do? It's my understanding the last time that y'all were deciding on whether or not you wanted to leave that article without the 1.5 or accept it with the changes that are there with the 1.5 days off.
Yeah, let me pull,
Because I think that's really the ball's in your court to call
Yeah.
it whichever way you choose to do it.
yeah, I only had I think I think I'd rather have the 1.5 than not have it.
Okay.
And it's just an option for people. The only question I had on that article was, we had some stuff in there as far as like, hang on, let me reread this. You guys all have this? I sent you guys the other day. I got something else here quick. Just give me one sec. I have a question on it, but I think I may have just answered my own question. Sit tight for 1 minute. Okay, I just sent that to you guys real quick. There was some language in here initially about access to evidence. It's not in there anymore. I didn't know if there was a reason for that, or maybe just an oversight on my part, but that's the only question I have on that one. I have to send you a counter. There's one line that we did not have in there that just comes right out of 143. In the time to investigate charges, I guess I didn't send this to you yet. It's one line straight from 143. right after,
Are
so,
you talking about the 180 days?
so, yeah, section 2,
Okay.
part B. So it says the original, I'll skip that part. The fire chief or his or designee shall have 180 days to investigate or take disciplinary action.
Correct?
The only thing I forgot to include in there was a sentence from 143 that says the department head or his or her designee may not complain of an act that is discovered earlier than the 108th day preceding the date the department head takes disciplinary action on the firefighter. And that's straight from 143.
Okay, so.
I'll send it to you. I mean,
No, I know, but the language that we had proposed was, that you all had initially sent us, was 180 days to investigate and take disciplinary action from the date the fire chief discovers an act.
correct.
So you're saying you don't,
No, I'm fine with that. There's
Okay.
just one more sentence to add after that.
Okay.
From 143.
okay.
So.
And it's not the misdemeanor felony stuff, because we added that
Yeah,
line.
It's not that.
Okay, it's
So,
something different. Okay,
Let,
I
let
just
me,
have to look at it. I don't
let me send it to you real quick.
know what you're talking about right now. Okay.
I'll pull up the exact line in 143, but let me send this to you. And I put mine in blue, so all of your guys is in red. And then let me get you the exact line in 143 on that one. No, it's 143.052 H. So it's on page 42 of Local Government Code 143.
Right, so I think, right, so I think we're gonna have to talk about that, because we're now factoring in the 180 days is from the date of discovery, not the date of the act. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Because the language that you all had sent us initially,
so I think both of those lines are in 143. Let me see.
the 180th day that's in H is based on when the act occurred, and the language that we had in that article that we've exchanged based on what you all had sent us initially was the date of discovery of the act. Separate and apart from any criminal activity that's in that second section in H.
Hang on one sec.
Okay.
That makes sense, yeah. So we were gonna have the blue in there.
What's this? 052H.
Okay.
So while y'all are looking at that, the discovery piece is really an important piece for us. We felt like we were on the same page, and we'd like to be on the same page. We think it's fair, we're not asking to extend the 180 days. We're just asking for 180 days. We can't start the investigation or take action sooner than we know about it. So if the chief finds out about it 20, 30, 40 days after it happened, we need 180 days from when it happened to do the investigation and take the action.
From when we found out it happened.
And that's all we're asking for.
And I will say, we've had that situation. I can't get into specifics, but we've had that
Yeah.
situation occur where we found out about something 150 to 170 days in from when it occurred, and it really hamstrings the ability to conduct an investigation. So to Lowell's point, we thought since you all had put the language in there about when we discover it, we thought that was intentionally meant to amend Section H of the agreement, which is why we added the language to clarify. It doesn't change the language in Section H regarding to any criminal activity that involves federal, state, or local law for which there's, a criminal penalty that's an H.
Right.
That piece is still there. The only thing we were changing was the 180 day is keyed off a discovery of the act, not when the act occurred. We intentionally meant to have that language there based on your proposal, and we were willing to accept it.
I am so sorry. This was not on purpose. I promise you. We just had a.
That's okay.
We can see that, we
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it work in my head here.
Understood.
It's just.
Understood.
If I'm not interrupting y'all's discussion, this happens periodically. It doesn't usually happen. Most of the time, just because of the way fire departments and current technology and reporting and everything else occurs, whatever happens, people know about it pretty close to the time of the event itself. It's a little bit different than, when the statute was written about 75 years
Yeah, no,
ago.
and-
1947.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not like missing something that's gonna,
Sure, we
be
understand.
problematic long term. But I don't.
And you'll see, Brian, the discovery language, when you read H, that discovery language is already in there for the criminal penalty. So this is just kind of modeling that same language is the intention for any other act.
Sorry, for some reason the document I sent them, it's pulling up like an old version. So let me. Now we're having the technical issues.
you don't need 180 days to figure it out, do you?
No,
Maybe
no.
minutes either.
No, and I'm
It might have occurred a little while ago. We just found out about it.
I just love it when you make my points.
I think they say the same thing. I'm just trying to make sure I have other eyes on
Okay.
it.
We just, yeah, we just don't
Take
want
your
them to
time.
conflict.
No, no, I
And-
know,
And
I know.
so if the chief has 180 from when it's discovered,
Yeah,
then whenever they're ready to discipline, they still have to impose discipline within
Right.
180 days from when they discovered it, as opposed to the incident itself.
yeah, no, I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think, I've been looking at way too much contract language for the last 70 days, so.
So for clarification, as I'm reading this, I'm trying to put it all together in my head. The fire chief and his or her designee shall have 180 days to investigate and take disciplinary action from the date the fire chief discovers an act. And then, but he can complain on something that happened prior to the 180th day. Is that how I'm?
He cannot complain of something that happened prior to 180 days from his discovery of
From
the
his
act. It's the
discovery.
same as the first sentence, okay?
Okay.
The sentences are really saying the same thing. The antiquated,
Yeah, or-
the antiquated 143 language about cannot complain, that's the deadline,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
Prior to
I
the
think what y'all have
occurrence.
tried to do to insert the language in the statute, that doesn't work based on the preceding sentence that we have in there about discovery of the act. I mean, we wrote it as, they have the 180 days to investigate and take disciplinary action within 180 days of discovery. So if we found out about it after the 180th day that the act occurred, we would then have to act within that 180 days still to investigate it and take discipline. But it could have happened 6
Could have
months,
happened 6
more than
years
6
ago.
months prior than that,
Yeah,
to that.
or-
But we didn't know about it. Which
Then
is,
would the
which is the
second
same
part-
language on the criminal penalty. Sorry, go ahead.
Where it says fire chief towards the end of that sentence, would that not also be fire chief or his designee, his or her designee?
Yes, that
Yes.
should be.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the statute doesn't say that, but the contract should match.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can clean that.
Yep.
So according to this one, if we remove that line that we added, there's no limit to the look-back period.
Correct.
So it's just,
It's keyed off of when we discover. So the limit is, once we know about it, we can't just sit on it and not investigate it because thinking there's no time period that applies. There is still a time period that applies, but it's from when we have knowledge, actual
Right.
knowledge, versus when it occurred, because sometimes things happen and we don't find out about it till, like I said, either right at, close to the 180th day deadline or even after, and then we can't do anything about it.
Because I think our initial language in there basically said you can't, thoughts that you can't complain on an act that was discovered that occurred more than 365 days prior, I think. let me find the,
Sorry, I don't have my microphone on. I think initially your proposal said 90 days to investigate and take disciplinary action from date of discovery, and we extended it to what the statute, the 180 days under the statute.
We're going to take a brief caucus. Y'all keep talking.
okay, yeah.
So Brian, thank you for showing us that. We recognize the legitimacy of an argument that there shouldn't be a forever look-back period. All we're trying to do is to make sure that two things don't happen. If we don't know about it and don't have a chance to investigate it, we need the extra time. We appreciate the fact that y'all are willing to recognize the legitimacy of that need under the discovery rule. We don't have a problem with a one-year look-back period if the conduct was such the city should have been able to discover the conduct in the exercise of reasonable diligence. Our only other limitation that we would like to make sure that we include is if the firefighter was guilty of something and was required to report it and failed to report it, that they don't get off the hook that way, okay? So if somebody is engaged in a criminal offense somewhere, they get arrested, whatever it is that happens, you know, and they hide it and they keep it from the chief and they don't find out about it until later, which has actually happened before here and elsewhere, that's not one of those deals to where they get away with the misconduct.
Yeah, and I don't.
I know you're not trying to make
Yeah,
that happen.
I don't think we have a problem with that. I mean, I think our rules and civil service already say, like, you have to report that. And that's why there's that, basically, that caveat for, like, the criminal offenses and stuff. So I don't think that'd be an issue. Like I said, just the language I just showed you.
Yeah, do you want to just send us that? Because that is not
Yeah.
in any of the drafts I've seen
Yeah,
from you
yeah,
on
that-
investigations and discipline. So if you want to send the 1-year look back.
If you'll
Sure.
send that over, we will write up what I just described to you.
Okay,
And I can't remember which of the other agreements that I have that have that exercise of reasonable diligence scenario. And we will add to that, in the event that, you know, a firefighter has been required to disclose prior conduct or criminal charges, that the time period doesn't begin to run until the department is aware of it.
okay, yeah, fine, yeah, that's fine. So that makes sense. I guess, sorry, I honestly don't know what happened on this one, just some mix-up with, there's all sorts of stuff coming in and out and whatnot, so I just sent you that language, however you guys figure out how to make that work
Mighty
with
good.
365, I think that one will be fine.
Okay, we have revised maintenance of standards for you all.
Okay,
and-
cool.
And the sick leave article
Okay.
for TA.
Give them the work hours on that.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
But you kept your copy, right,
Yep.
of the work hours?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
you did.
So, subject to resolving this issue on the discovery rule, do we have a TA then on the investigations and discipline article, the way the city had presented that with the 1.5 in it?
Yeah, I mean, unless,
Okay.
I think we're on the same page here.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
All we changed was IOC and whatever the info bulletin to department directive. Okay.
So while y'all finish looking over those, we're going to take a very short little caucus, go upstairs, check in with our team, and make sure we've got our complete list, because I think we're down kind of to the lick log here.
Yeah, I think we have overtime, appointed positions, and definitions left.
Anything on definitions?
I haven't sent them to them. I'll send them now.
Okay.
I mean, the definitions, Brian, there's just a couple of different ones that y'all didn't have in your draft, but they're straightforward. I don't think there should be an issue.
And I can email you if you want. I think I've organized a table of contents.
Okay.
Good.
That'd be good.
appropriately. So I think ideally, if we wrap this thing up today, I guess I need this on.
All right.
If we wrap this thing up today, I can start the education process of the members in order.
Sorry, and on the definitions, just to clarify, we moved the Kelly Day
Yeah.
definition.
Yeah.
You're going to see that out of the counter proposal we sent on overtime, but
Yeah.
the Kelly Day is being moved into the definitions article.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I highlighted that part. I didn't know if where you wanted that, so whatever works.
So we won't be gone long, 10 minutes. I don't think it'll be longer than 10, maybe
Okay.
15. Make sure we've got everything covered.
I'll send it to you guys. Discipline, it's just what we discussed down here. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I think that one works. Like I said, I don't know where.
We always just write it down the way we tell you we're gonna write it down.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I don't know where, I was trying to look through my emails and I don't know where the mix-up came from, but we had, we discussed, we had looked at Denton's initially. So I thought I copied and pasted it to you guys initially. I don't know where the
Yeah,
mix-up went. but-
Janet looked through hers and didn't find it, but I
Yeah.
thought that I remembered discussion about 365.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad we caught it and we got it worked out, and we're both on the same page, and appreciate y'all working through it with us.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, I think that kind of brings us to the end of the game, as the city has said on several occasions. Yes, something
One
else.
sec, I guess, before we get into anything else. So I emailed you about the definitions.
Good.
Okay.
Just looking for clarity on, I think the only confusion we had was number 2, anniversary date. Is that the date they're hired or the date they're off probation, the date they become certified? So
I'm going to
that-
have to do a word search in the document to even see where we use that verbiage, quite frankly, to know how it's meant to apply.
Yeah,
So
and I don't, the only place I can see where we used it would be in the promotion process. That's about the only place I can see where we did it.
What's the word that captures your, the pay step that you have? That's your sworn date, right?
Yeah, I guess it'd be date of hire, right? I mean,
Date of, because you bring all your people come in and are going straight onto apparatus, as opposed to going to
Well,
the academy?
Well, the academy, as long as they're a firefighter, it's their hire day. Once they promote, it's a promotion.
Gotcha.
right, so what we're getting at is, so that the language of anniversary date comes from Fort Worth, because Fort Worth has like
They have cadets.
well, they have a cadet position, we don't have that.
Correct.
So what we're trying to do is
That's
just-
all I was pointing out.
Yeah, we're just trying to make sure when somebody gets hired, like, it doesn't affect their promotion, it's, okay, on the pay chart, they're day one, right? I think without knowing what the definition of,
Because in other city policies, to take vacation, for instance, you accrue at different hours throughout your career. The longer you've been here, your accrual goes up. So that quite possibly could change that. A guy
Right.
would be a year or so
Yep.
behind.
and it doesn't even say anniversary date in the promotion one. It just says one seniority point given for each full year of service, so it doesn't talk about anniversary date.
So, yeah, we might not even need that definition. I
Right.
think we had some definitions that we had drafted before we had completed
Yeah.
going through all the articles, and those were some that we thought we might use based on other contracts, but
Right.
we can do a full search of the document if there's no anniversary date.
Yeah.
I would propose we just scrub that definition.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't think we're gonna have holdups on that one. I think we're just trying to make sure we're on the same page on that one, but
Okay,
you don't even TA definitions, do you?
I don't think so. I think we'll carry those along and get them
Okay.
fixed. And, you know, I don't foresee any problem getting the definition sorted out.
Okay, yeah, I think we're trying to do the same thing. We're just trying to
That's
make
just,
sure.
that's just wordsmithing. That's not changing the deal.
Right,
So, so as we've indicated before, and I appreciate y'all's patience listening to our perspective on the contract bargaining process. We believe that the city has put a very substantial amount of additional resources into this agreement and reflects its commitment to its firefighters. We think we have accomplished by far the lion's share of your objectives in terms of staffing commitment that's contractualized going forward. As I mentioned earlier, a pretty substantial move of unbudgeted funds into year one in order to close the gap on making a deal on staffing, as a pretty gigantic step from what our prior proposal had been. And it's been an essential underlying, required element of that we have the appointed position prerogative for the chief. And so we're asking that you take this contract to your members with the appointed position article the way we have handed it to you. And I would encourage your team to support that. We wouldn't be asking for that if it wasn't the norm in contracts like this around the state. And it's in the other agreements that I think probably all of the ones you're looking at, but certainly most of them, including Fort Worth. And we think it's an eminently reasonable provision for management to be able to achieve that, especially in light of the staffing growth that this contract accomplishes over the 4-year time period. So what we have done, y'all mentioned earlier that you were having a lot of member concern about the change after a long period of time. I don't know exactly how long it is, but 20 years or more that sick leave has been productive time for overtime purposes. Obviously, firefighters have expectations about that. I complimented y'all before. I compliment you again in, being reasonable and listening to the logic about why the city felt like that was necessary to make that adjustment, both just in terms of the philosophy and logic of sick leave not being productive time under federal law, and the fact that we needed some savings to be able to assist us in funding the staffing that we were willing to commit to. And so recognizing the fact that there are consequences, in that individual firefighters end up facing situations. And Brian, the scenario you said, you've got people that are saying, well, if I get the flu right before Christmas and I'm out, then I end up working straight time if I'm forced to work overtime. And as I understand y'all's perspective on that, the use of forced overtime is fairly unusual. It's not frequent. It would not be a big hit for the city to adjust that piece of the status of sick leave in terms of overtime. I know that y'all have looked at the Fort Worth contract, which has, an extra time provision. I can't remember if they call it extra time, but time worked outside your schedule.
yeah.
And so what we went back to do is to look at exactly the problem that you wanted us to try to address. And I came up with a couple of lawyer ideas that probably didn't have much merit. And the chief got his pencil and pad out and went through and looked at the actual utilization for mandatory forced overtime for a few years for the holidays across the board. And we calculated what the city's historical utilization has been in that context. And so we have written a provision and we're sending it to you now. And it's called mandatory forced callback on city holidays. And what we're going to do, and we think this is the fairest way to do it because it accomplishes, I think, what you were wanting to address, but it also keeps the city from because we're concerned that utilization of sick leave would just grow in response to this, and it would end up costing us more than it did historically for doing this. And so it turned out that we had, what was it, 5.4? 5.2 days on the average over that time period. And so what we did was we calculated what the annualized cost was, and it's right at $50,000. And so what we're going to do with the provision that we have just sent you is that people that are working in that forced overtime context will be paid time and a half for that forced overtime time until the money runs out for the $50,000 annual amount. So we have a budgetary allocation that's basically doing the same thing that we had been doing historically, but the city's exposure going forward just matches what we've had before. And if sick leave utilization stays the same, we're all hopeful that it will. We're adding new personnel. We're going to have enough people to cover the apparatus and assignments. The way that this budget has been worked out, as you know, is at a factor of 1.5. We've addressed the potential for growth in vacation shifts going forward. So I think that we have touched all the places on the chart that make this work, make sure we have enough people to staff the apparatus and the stations and the jobs. And so that's our solution. We think that it represents sensitivity to people that might otherwise end up having their lives and their families and so forth and so on adversely affected. And so we think that's a good compromise and solves the problem, and we'd like y'all to take a close look at it. And hopefully that takes the edge off of, kind of the bitter medicine of sick leave no longer going to be productive as the general rule. So thank you for listening to my speech.
Okay, well,
Did you get it?
yeah,
sent
I
it to you.
got it.
Okay.
I just sent it to them, so we'll have if we can, a brief discussion on this
You bet.
one. I guess kind of just going back to the assistant chief one, kind of as brief as I can. I know that's where you guys are at on that one. Was there any, I guess, consideration or thought into our counter that we sent, tying the assistant chief to a set number of personnel?
Well, it wouldn't do us any good during this contract because we're not going to get to that level of personnel. And we need to be able to put that position in place early on in this contract, and having that management prerogative so the chief has his team in place is a high-value item. And from the very beginning, it's been a condition for us doing the things and spending the money that it takes to do the things that were y'all's priority. That's been our number one priority, and it still is.
Okay, so I guess just to confirm on that one, that's the
That's our
ultimate-
bottom line.
That's where you guys are at.
That's our bottom line.
Okay.
Yeah, and to clarify, our ask was not for an additional assistant chief. Our ask was for all the assistant chiefs to be appointed by the chief.
Right.
So it didn't really address what our concern that had been initially expressed, quite frankly, because we're never going to see that during the life
Right.
of this contract.
Okay, yeah, that's one of those things that will,
Chief, can you help me understand, I guess, past practices, I guess, why the model moving forward doesn't work?
Sure. I have certain philosophies on strategic planning and master site planning of how we're moving forward. I would like the ability to select my team members to work with them going forward in these things. Sometimes there's some information that needs to remain confidential, and if I have somebody in my circle that, quite frankly, is part of the association and feels obligation to share that information before it's ready to be shared, I don't want it to be shared. If it is shared, I have the ability to make changes. But as long as there's somebody tested in there, that hamstrings me on what I can and cannot do.
well, appointed assistant chiefs are also part of the association. So,
Understood, but I can move them back.
Yeah,
The tested one is much more difficult to move back.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
You guys have anything on that? Well, like I said, we've expressed, our, I guess, issue with that. But if that's where y'all are at, take it to the members and see what they ultimately, think on that one. unless
Yeah, I
you
mean,
guys have
clearly
something
from,
else.
from the
but-
get-go, this has been our
Yeah,
number
and
one
that's what I
ask.
said from the get-go. You know, the Cowboys don't want the Redskins telling them what players they want on their team. I want to be able to pick who's on my team. And that's just the bottom line.
And
It's
if I may, you know, I always try to not meddle in y'all's business, Brian. I really do, because it's your product. You got to talk to your members, and you got to convince them about why this makes sense. But every other metropolitan collective bargaining entity in the state of Texas has appointed chiefs like this. And it's a reasonable provision for exactly the reason that the chiefs laid out. It's not just Chief Conley, it's every fire chief in the whole state of Texas. And at one time or other, I've worked with most of them. So that's what I would ask you to make sure your members that can understand. If they're going to be the fire chief, which some of them actually probably are down the road, here, there, and yonder, that's the way they're going to want to run their railroad. And so that's why it's in all those labor agreements. Y'all going to text us when you want to come back?
Yeah, give us a couple minutes. You probably don't have to go too far. We'll step in the room for a sec. Okay.
Investigation and discipline, we'll
Okay, cool.
get Orlando to sign it and
Trying
get it over
to
to you.
chug along here.
Okay. Orlando.
So on the overtime article, appreciate the addition of section 4 in there. I think where we prefer, I think it would help kind of, like I said, smooth things over with everybody on the sick leave is productive time. If we just took out city holidays on there, but you leave the cap, we're totally fine with the cap on the mandatory overtime. Just, it's, I guess the Christmas part that I explained to you guys was just kind of one example of it, but I'm comfortable with leaving the cap. I would just prefer if city holiday wasn't in there. I think that'd be smoother for the members as well. Because if budget's the concern for y'all and you just want to cap it at 50, I think that's totally acceptable. We just take the city holiday language out, and then on mandatory overtime, your guys' cap is 50,000 here. It is what it is. Doesn't affect the budget. I think that would make this go a little easier. I know you've,
I'm good with that, but ultimately.
Yeah, we'll confirm with the city manager,
Okay.
but
and like I
obviously
s-
the cap was something that we wanted to make sure this didn't get out of control from
Yeah,
us,
and-
from a cost perspective for the city. So I think if we can leave that in, that sounds like
no
we
issue
can.
and
with
we're fine. Like I said, we're fine with the cap for budgetary reasons.
We just really didn't, excuse me, want to make the determination for our members what days are important to them. You know, you did the math, it's not a ton of times that it happens, but if whatever I have going on tomorrow is important to me, you know, then it matters, whether that's Christmas, Easter, anniversary, kids' ball game. And so that's why we just like, hey, Lord willing, it doesn't happen very often anyway, but we don't want to be dictating what's important to our members.
But other than that, like I said,
Okay.
go with the cap. I get it, budget, trying to keep everything easy. So if y'all want to go confer on that real quick, I
Okay.
don't think we're too far. And if you want to leave the,
Yeah, that one. So discipline,
Okay.
investigation article, and then definitions we can talk about.
Y'all are ready to TA?
Thank you, Orlando.
Appointment position.
yeah, I mean, I guess from what I'm understanding correctly, I mean, it's that's where y'all are at, like it is. I've got to take it to the members, so, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess
If you want to say any supportive, positive words about it. I wouldn't stand in your way.
It's probably better if I just take the piece of paper. So, and we will give it to our guys to make that decision, but,
All right, we'll get those, we will
yeah,
go upstairs.
I mean, I think
We'll confirm where we are
Okay.
on the cap deal. We'll run the rest of those TAs, and we'll be ready, right?
Yeah,
That's the only one left,
yeah.
right?
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, we
Yeah,
bring it
that's it.
down, and
Yep.
if the,
Yeah, well, we're gonna
and-
work on, Brian and I can work on definitions
yeah,
and
and
table
I
of
don't think it's a big
contents.
deal
It's not.
besides just
It's just an organizational issue. We'll get that
organizing.
done.
But if y'all are good, I mean, if you guys go up there, you talk about the overtime, you're good with
If
our
we're good with it,
proposal,
we'll tweak it and
just
we'll
bring-
TA
Just
it.
bring
We'll
down
take
the
out.
TA, and
Okay.
you can bring the
Okay.
AC one, and we'll be wrapped up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep,